Hello all. Thanks for taking the time to review this special video I've put together specifically for the owners of 300 Ocean Mile. If we haven't had an opportunity to meet, my name's Kerry Langley and I'm the current president of our Homeowners Association. We have an awesome board for 2026 and I'm super excited about what our next year holds for us all. As you all may know, we are finishing up the transition to our new community management company, Four Seasons Management, and things are looking very good on that front. Our former board, a handful of owners, and I invested a great deal of time selecting Four Seasons, and I'm confident we've made a great decision. This brings us to the point where we need to have an important discussion about our finances. It goes without saying that our community is suffering from a lack of planning and deferred maintenance that has earned our community the nickname the Ghetto of St. George Island. Nothing could infuriate me more. Partly because I have little patience for people who go out of their way to be mean and say hateful things, and also partly because that statement is more true than I'd like to admit. To be 100% frank with you, I'll never understand how or why our former boards and or management companies of the past have let our community go. I believe that if you own a property, you take care of it, and frankly, we haven't. The condition of our community does not sit well with me, and I know from talking with many of you, it does not sit well with you either, and frankly, it shouldn't. I've been your president for 25 months or so, and I have some great news. We've made some very good progress. But we need to do more, and we need to figure out how to straighten out a bit of a financial mess we're facing with a focus on improving our community and doing our best to make it affordable for everybody. And this is what this video is all about. So here's the good news. In the past 2 years, as a community, we've accomplished two amazing things. Number one, you, our owners, were amazing at funding a $1.1 million roofing project, and with all but two owners having paid their fair share in full. And we're currently pursuing foreclosure against these two properties. And number two, we've gotten our dues rolls cleaned up, and with the exception of these same two owners noted above, which together have outstanding balances due to the associations totaling $34,500, we've gotten our past due monthly assessments down from over $48,000 over 2 years ago to just now about $7,000. So from an operational cash flow perspective, we look great, and thanks to all of you for doing your part. Now, let's get into the sobering news that all of you probably already know anyway. Our community is suffering from what I would call very poor planning as far as preparing for future expenditures. For instance, the rebuilding of our boardwalk system will cost over $850,000, and we have only $200,000 in reserves allocated for this project. So we have a $650,000 shortfall on this one item alone. In addition, due to our covenants having expired a few years back, a community-wide painting project has been delayed at least 2 or 3 years, and this has got to be done ASAP. I'm hoping for third quarter 2026. And while we have not started working on a formal bidding process for this yet, I'm confident that we will need to raise at least an additional $500,000 for this. These two items alone will add up to $1.15 million in funding we need to find during the year 2026 alone. And there's more. We all know that we have a security/trespassing challenge, which should be able to be solved with some form of automated access system using fences and gates. And yes, more money. I'm estimating that this will cost us about $100,000. Our landscaping/irrigation systems need lots of work. I'm estimating this will be another $100,000. And then to top it all off, we've had 2 electrical service fires over the last few years due to what I've been told are corrosion in the meter assemblies. And so we need to establish a repair maintenance program for these. I've been told to figure an additional $100,000 for this. And yes, as a successful 40-year real estate and mortgage lending professional and the owner of a financial software company that develops high-level mathematical models for our clients, and with over $2 billion in closed deals under my belt, I know that some of these items are common property issues, and I know that some of them are private property issues. But at the end of the day, all of us together are the community, and since the association only generates revenues from owners, I look at our funding needs holistically, regardless of which bucket it flows into or out of. My style is not to say, hey, we need $650,000 for the boardwalk, so everybody send in a check for $6,500, and good luck on everything else. Y'all need to figure that out on your own. I figured that if we, the board, are going to ask each of you to find $15,000 plus or minus to fund needed projects to improve our entire community, we have the responsibility to do our best to develop strategies that magnify our community's ability to get a great deal based on the scale of our entire community. And with the goal being to identify the most economical solution for all owners, and the financing should be part of this conversation. Assuming my numbers are accurate, and frankly, I hope they're too high, this means that we need to do two things. Number one, we need to raise upwards of $1.45 to $1.5 million. And number two, we need to get on a schedule to have adequate reserves to repair, replace our community property going forward so we can stop operating from behind the eight ball of deferred maintenance and instead get out in front and adopt a mindset on being proactive, which typically should add additional useful life to our improvements and our association assets. So, I've been your president for 25 months now, and I'm sure you're probably asking, so what have we done to figure this all out? Well, we actually took a super important first step earlier this year, in the summer of 25. The board approved having a reserve study prepared for our community, which, based on what I've heard, is the only one we've ever done. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term reserve study, these are detailed reports prepared by licensed professionals who are like part engineer, part accountant, and part expense forecaster. And their role is to survey the property, literally walk the property, and take notes of all of the association assets, then make notes of their condition, then estimate the remaining life of each of these assets. And then they forecast what we will need to replace each item and how much we should allocate in our reserves to accomplish all of this. One very, very important point. The professionals that create reserve studies don't wing it. They follow rules and regulations stated by the state of Florida, and they focus on our reserves only. They don't look at our overall budget and say, hey, this line item is too expensive, change this or that. Our board would be responsible for any changes to our budgets. We have paid a professional to do this work for us, and she has delivered top-shelf reports. And since none of the current board is a reserve study expert who does this type of work every day for all types of communities, I strongly believe that we should follow her guidance and recommendations. One important thing to keep in mind, our reserve study looks at our expected funding needs for the next 30 years through 2055, so this is not a short-term Band-Aid. Our historic approach of using guesstimates-based reserved allocations developed by boards and/or management companies without this specific expertise, using what I will call the this amount should work approach, has proven to be inadequate. Just look around the property. We have sent you an email with a link so you can access a copy of the reserve study and its supporting documents. It's a bunch of math, and the entire purpose of this video is to put this information in front of every owner so you will all know exactly what we're facing, and so you can hear this information directly from me. There are two sections to this video. The first part, the part I'm talking in now, is what I will refer to as the story, and then the second part is what I refer to as the numbers. In the email notification you will be receiving, it will let you know where in the video, a timestamp, that you can find the numbers section. So what did this reserve study tell us anyway? Well, initially, it says that if we stay on the current path of funding, like we follow today, which is basically made up of relatively modest monthly assessments and large periodic special assessments, number one, we will immediately need to raise money for our major committed community project, the boardwalks, and then number two, shore up our reserve accounts. So starting here, under the current way we do things, we will need to increase our revenues for reserves in 2026, $752,840. So roughly $7,684 per unit, and we'll need to do this ASAP. We will need to do ideally in January of 2026, so we can attempt to get the boardwalks completed before the spring season. And then, in addition, we will need to increase our dues $21 per month per unit starting in January of 26 and running through 2055, as the reserves will need to increase slightly from the current roughly $30 per unit we have to roughly $51 per month. Next, we will need to do the painting project in the third quarter of 2026. And if this costs $500,000, we will need to have an additional special assessment of about $5,100 later in the year. Yes, I know this is an owner responsibility, but the money has got to come from somewhere, so it needs to be part of this conversation. And then number three, if we choose to address the security, access control, landscaping, irrigation, and the electrical service, And if these projects do indeed come in at an additional $100,000 each, there's $300,000 altogether, which would work out to be a $3,061 per unit special assessment that would follow the other two. So all in, if we use the current path we have historically followed, we will see dues increase $21 per month for the foreseeable future and a special assessment of somewhere in the $15,847 per unit in 2026. My expectation is that we will also be delayed starting some of our projects to complete our standard bids process and due diligence, and then to get a special assessment put together so we can raise the needed funds. Assuming all of my estimated numbers are accurate, this would come to a total of $1.553 million before accounting for the small increases in monthly dues. A few comments on staying the current path. I have one significant concern going this route as our boardwalks are not safe, and inviting our regular spring break crowd to enjoy our property before we get the boardwalks 100% complete could be a logistical nightmare and a liability issue for our entire community, not to mention someone could get hurt. I also expect that any delays in turning our community around will cost our owners who choose to rent countless thousands of dollars in lost rental income. This current path trajectory, as spelled out, is meant to be only a baseline set of numbers. I've assumed no loans, all cash raised through special assessments, and that we do all projects. Now, I've mentioned that I work in finance, and knowing that we were facing this, I've been working with two bankers to see if there's a better solution. And I'm pleasantly surprised to tell you that I think that there is. Here's how it goes. Number one, I have been having discussions with the HOA Associations group at our primary commercial bank, Centennial Bank. And they would indeed entertain lending us money to fund these special projects. I've also talked with a similar HOA Associations focus group at Cadence Bank. They too would entertain lending us money to fund these projects. I have no personal or business relationship with either of these banks, so my recommendation is 100% driven by the numbers alone. At the end of the day, the terms from Cadence Bank are far superior to those offered by Centennial. As a matter of fact, the banker at Centennial recommended that we pursue the Cadence deal as it was far superior to hers based on our needs. I went into these conversations looking for a non-revolving line of credit to fund all the projects, which would then roll into a permanent loan with a term of 84 months. I chose the non-revolving route because a revolving credit facility would typically require much higher debt service if we were looking to use the line, then pay it off, do a project, run it up again, then pay it off again. I was looking for the lowest interest rate. I was looking for the lowest loan fee. I was looking for an option to prepay the loan without penalties so an owner could cut their interest expense to save money on interest if they chose to. And I was looking for an option to recast the entire loan. Turns out that I got once per 6 months if an owner or a group of owners wanted to make a partial prepayment and drop their payments. Cadence Bank came back with a rate of 6.59%, which is actually below prime rate, which is currently 7. Centennial came back at 7.25. Cadence has a loan fee of $4,500. Centennial has a loan fee of $15,000. Cadence and Centennial both met my requirements on the prepayment penalties for paying off the loan earlier, although both of them have a prepayment penalty of 1% if the loan is refinanced with a different lender. And as of this past week, Cadence has issued us a commitment for $1.5 million conditioned on our board approval. So why do I think it's a better overall option than compared to the current path? First of all, these numbers assume that we do all of the projects mentioned earlier. The boardwalks, the painting, the access control, the landscaping, the irrigation, and the electrical service maintenance upgrades in 2026. So I like using this financial structure for the following reasons. Number one, we can use it to move faster. Assuming the board approves, we can close this loan in early January 2026 and get to work on the remainder of the boardwalks, targeting the completion before spring break. No waiting on collecting funds through a special assessment. Number two, going this route, I would also propose to the board that we would form a group of single project-based committees to take on each project and have a very specific timeline to get projects ready for board approval. And not to put anyone on the spot, but one of our new board members, Mike McKinney, is a seasoned process professional. So I would recommend that we lean on him to help us design systems to make all of this work efficiently. Number three, with a line of credit, we have the flexibility to have funding based on the projects that are important to the community. So this can be any or all of the projects I've identified or any other projects that we identified. Who knows, we may even need to invest some money in a parking solution. We can do that too. And maybe the best part, if we don't use all the money, we never pay it back, and we only pay interest when we use the money. Number 4, our owners can repay their share over the entire 84 months or on any schedule sooner if they like. So there's no pressure to come up with $15,800 in the next few months, and no requirement to pay interest for 84 months if they don't want to either. Number 5, and while this is just a hunch, after spending a number of weeks at 300 Ocean Mile this late summer and early fall, I talked with lots of owners and guests, and the condition of the property was a top subject. I even had 2 families who have visited our community numerous times tell us they weren't coming back. So if poor conditions chase people away, then I believe that good conditions should attract people. And my expectation is if we are bold and flip the entire community and tell the whole world that we've done so, we will get more rental business and or higher rents, not to mention that we would all enjoy it more if it was in top shelf shape. And so the ability to do this in a short period of time seems to be an absolute no-brainer to me. Number 6, so what's this all going to cost? An increase of $228 per month per owner for at least the first 12 months, and this will cover the estimated interest on the line of credit during the construction phase and will work on solving the reserves deficit issue. And then next year, if we use the entire $1.5 million, then the scheduled payment for 84 months will be the same, $228. If we use less, it will be lower. Once the loan is paid in full, the monthly dues for reserves will drop to $38.74. These figures are included in the second set of financials in the reserve study documentation titled Flip 300 OM. Number 7, and a question I hear regularly, can an owner prepay their part and pay no interest? Absolutely, yes, after the first year. We won't have a firm number on a per unit per month until all the projects are decided upon and completed. Number 8, so what is this going to cost long term? Well, that depends. If you assume all owners pay the loan over the full 84 months, there will be $3,842 in interest per unit. If you look at it over 30 years, the study period, it's $29 per unit per year. If you look at using an association-wide perspective and assume that 50% of the owners prepay their share in 4 years, let's say, it costs the exact same thing as paying cash. The reality, it's a loan. If an owner chooses to use the money over time, there will be interest associated with it. If they choose not to, there won't. Number 9, and what I believe may be the most important benefit of all. If we structure the funding this way, the current owners are not on the hook for the entire balance. They pay their share as long as they own their unit. So if you're never going anywhere and you like the cash flow part, that's great. But if you think you're going to be out of here in 2 years, then you're going to pay your $228 for 2 years and let the new owner take up the rest of it. That's one thing that's been kind of irritating to me over the last year or so. The owners that paid their $10,000 share for the roof, they're on the deal, and if they sell their property tomorrow, the new owner gets the benefit and didn't have to invest anything in it. So this way, you will not be required to be out the entire $15,800 in 2026 unless you choose to. And like I said, any remaining balance will roll over to the new buyer/owner in their normal assessments. As I mentioned earlier, there's a second part to this video, and it is focused on the numbers. It will play automatically after this part finishes. I know that many of you are sure to have questions, and so I put this part together specifically to review all the numbers that I can think of. Now, I have a challenge for each of you. Please watch this video multiple times and write down your questions. Review the reserve study information and take notes. And if you have questions, ask. If any owners have specific questions, feel free to shoot me an email at kmlathebeach@gmail.com. I've listed it here on the screen. One last item. I strongly recommend that we aggressively take action to turn our community around. And I have identified what I believe is a very nice solution. Much better than I expected I'd find, frankly. And lastly, just so you'll know, this is my idea solely. In my professional opinion, this checks all the boxes of what I believe we need at 300 Ocean Mile. But this has not been approved by the board at this time. It has not been recommended by anybody other than me. The board, we will be discussing this at our upcoming meeting, and I will be making a motion for the board to vote on moving forward with this loan opportunity at our meeting on December the 15th. This will be an important meeting, and I strongly recommend that you plan on attending. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day. Hi, everyone. This is Kerry Langley again, and welcome to the second section of this special video I've put together for the owners of 300 Ocean Mile. This section I call the numbers. And specifically, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to review with you the financial impact of implementing the recommendations found in the reserve study that your board commissioned earlier this year. And my approach is very simple. I've taken all these numbers and I've drilled them down to 3 sets of illustrations on how implementing our needed improvements could impact each one of you financially. So let's get into this. As you can see, we basically have 3 types of structures that we can take on. Number 1, we can follow a plan that follows kind of the way we currently do things, which is using a modest monthly assessment, and then when needs arise, we have we supplement what we need funding-wise with what I call special assessments. And in this particular case, it would be for projects we need to take on, but also it would be for boosting the funding that we have into our reserve accounts. Number 2, we have an opportunity that I've put together where we're going to look at the board adopting a strategy where we get a $1.5 million loan that is a combination of a construction line of credit and a permanent loan. And we're going to use these funds to fund an assortment of community-wide projects, and the payback is going to be a straight line increase in monthly assessments. And these funds will be used to repay the loan as well as build up our replacement reserves. And then number 3, finally, as I've told you guys, I'm a math guy. I love playing around with numbers. But number 3 is going to be an example of an alternative repayment structure where basically we keep the assessments as is, and we fund the repayment of our loan and build up our reserves using an annual assessment from each owner. I did these numbers last week, and frankly, this is the one I like a lot. I like a whole lot. But we'll see. We'll jump into it, and we'll see which direction the board thinks we ought to go. Now, let's get on to the next slide. As you can see here, we've got our current plan updated with the reserves. If we use our current deal where we have a relatively modest assessment, hold on just a second. I'm using a new piece of software and it's giving me the fits. Anyway, we increase the monthly dues $21 a month, and then based on the schedule of projects that I spelled out for you in the original video, we would have a special assessment that looks like it would add up to about $15,800 for the year 2026. The next plan, and this is and what I refer to the program that I recommend we do with the $1.5 million loan. I refer to that as Flip 300 Ocean Mile. And so if we just did a straight line repayment of the loan on that program, it would be $228 a month per owner. There would be a construction phase, and then there would be a permanent phase, and obviously no prepayment penalty, so anybody could pay it off anytime they wanted to. And then the third one is what I call the alternative funding one, which is my favorite, where basically we would leave the assessments, the monthly assessments, exactly as they are today. And we would have an annual assessment of $2,740 per unit. Once again, it all gets us to the same place. I just like this one because it gives a little more flexibility from a financial standpoint, a cash flow standpoint. Frankly, I don't like the monthly assessments creeping up. So I kind of like, knock it out with one fell swoop, which is one of our favorite things because of a comedian named Nick Barghese. But I like this one the best because I think it's a lot more manageable. All right. So this next slide, this shows us, if you're a 1-bedroom owner and we're looking at the current plan, it shows the $15,847 assessment, special assessment year one, and then it shows an 8-year payback as far as the 8 years of payments of the new assessment, which is $21 above what it currently is right now. So going from the $415, I think it is for the one bedrooms, up to $436. This next slide shows the one bedroom units with that $228 added to it. So this is a straight line repayment of the $1.5 million loan, and that would be a repayment over that 84-month period. And then the third, which once again, as I told you, I think is the coolest one, is leave the assessments at the $415 for the one bedroom owners and have a $2,740 annual assessment that we be paid once a year for each one of the owners of those units. Next, this is where it really gets interesting. This is the running total of the assessments. If we do just a standard plan, we have the upfront special assessment, and then we do the what was it, 433, I think the number was. Anyway, so here's the number, and as you can see, and here's something that's really interesting here, is if you look right here where I've got the mouse, the pointer going around in circles, which is year 6 and 7, you'll see that if you notice, if you take note of 47,000 here for year 6 and 52 for year 7, if you go to either of the other two programs, it's lower. See, this is 46. This one over here is 47. This one over here is 54. This one over here is 52. So you can see year 7, it's a little bit more expensive from a cash flow standpoint, but year 6, it's not. So it's about 6.5 years. So if you're a money manager kind of person and you like playing around with your money, this shows you the impact of paying the money up front, the $15,000 up front, or paying it over time. Now let's get on to the 2 bedrooms. So this is the 2 bedrooms under the current plan. It shows the $15,847 coming out right out of the barrel, and then the assessment straight line at $466. The 2 bedrooms with the $228 added every month right across the line. No upfront assessments, no special assessments, and basically would put us out of the special assessment business unless something wild and crazy happens that we don't anticipate. And then this one, once again, has the $2,700 annual assessment, and the monthly assessments are staying where they are right now. Now let's go to the running totals for the 2 bedroom folks. Once again, same kind of thing over here. You've got the 49 and the 55, and then you come over here to the Flip 300 Ocean Mile program. And you can see, once again, that it crosses that line right there in the middle of the years between year 6 and year 7. Here's the 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms, once again, under the current plan, the $15,847. And once again, we went through the numbers on where we came up with that. And then it shows what the current assessments are right now, plus the $21 that the reserve study recommended. And then here is the straight line for the 3 bedroom units. And this is where I don't really like it, frankly. It's $702 a month, and that's probably enough to get people to sit up straight. I like it better if we keep it the same and look at the $2,740. Once again, what the board's voting on the 15th isn't necessarily this structure, because the owners can pay it any way they want to. But anyway, it's something. I just wanted to give this to you as an illustration on how I think we could get creative with it. And then here's the running totals. Once again, you've got year 6 and 7. The 51 and the 57, and then you come to the next year, it's 50 and 58. So once again, it crosses over that line. Those are really the numbers. And all I've got to tell you at this point, and let me get back over here to this screen, is this is a big deal. And the goal is to come up with the most economically attractive way to improve our property. Like I mentioned to you in the first part of the video, I can't really understand how we got here. I know why we're here. I get it. But the long and the short of it is we're at the point where we got to do something. And so look over this information. Email me if you want to. Call a board member. Call your friends. Scream and yell. Throw something at the wall. Whatever is the most appropriate reaction that you have. But the long and the short of it is we kind of got it. We're at the point where we got to do something. And my goal is to provide options to the owners because I'm a financial guy and I think about numbers all the time. And I wanted to make sure that you had the best shot at how we can get creative about solving this problem that we have. Once again, look forward to talking with any of you that want to talk or want to email me. And then more importantly, I want to invite you once again, please be sure to show up for our meeting on the 15th. This would be a board vote. This is not an association-wide vote. Our covenants have it set up where it's a board vote. But the reason that we're sharing all this information with you is because we want you to be well-informed and we want your input. So make sure that if you have a question or a comment or a concern, that we hear about it. And it doesn't have to be all good ones. They could be bad ones too. That's fine. We have about 95 different owners, and I bet we got 95 opinions. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and I hope y'all have a great rest of the week. Goodbye now.